today I've put forward for you, to make it simple, a comparison between Mahathir and Najib. There are fundamental differences between these two prime ministers. Mahathir practiced the concept of patronage. In my book, Malaysia's Political Economy, Politics, Profits, and Patronage, please read it. Mahathir, for all our criticisms we may have about him, had a vision. He had a vision about an industrialized country. He had a vision about heavy industries, a Malaysian car. He had a vision about the steel industry. He had a vision about creating Malay conglomerates of international repute. There's a major and fundamental difference between Mahathir and Najib. What are the differences? When we look at Mahathir, as I said, I mentioned Ananda Krishnan, we can look at YTL, Francis Yeo. Francis Yeo got this. Francis Yeo was in construction. He gets this rent to develop a power-based industry, and he creates this great power-based industry. Now he's gone abroad. He's gone to Singapore. He's gone to Africa. He's gone to England, and he's bought out Wessex, a Malaysian company buying out a company invested in England. He has done something with the rent which he got from Mahathir. Who is Najib's major crony? Joe Low. And what is Joe Low known for? Speculative activities. Is there anything, has he created anything? Is there anything fundamental we can point to and say this is something great that's coming out of this form of transfer of rents? No. It's a monumental waste of funds. When we look at Mahathir, Mahathir was a prime minister who was deeply enamored by the stock market. He wanted to use the stock market as a mechanism to create capitalists. If you look at Najib, we are not seeing that. With Najib, we can't trace what he's doing. You know, we have to depend on the likes of Tony Phua and Tiko Nasegran to come and find out who are these covert companies and draw these diagrams to show us how it all works. Do we know any of these companies? We've never heard of them. The case of Mahathir and his patronage, we knew all the companies. They were all publicly listed. You could even track what they were doing. You knew what they were doing with the rents. You could see how the rents were being employed, whether it was productive or not productive. Of course, some were not productive. Many people were not productive. Mahathir used the domestic market. We could trace what Mahathir was doing because we could follow the way the rents went. The newspapers, the books were written on this. They could trace how Mahathir took these rents, injected into the domestic market, and allowed the market to grow. When we look at Najib, we have no clue. We can't trace the rents because the rents have gone all over the world. You're talking about at least half a dozen countries. You're using words like money laundering. There's nothing productive going on here. In terms of money, yes, there was money, and money went into UMNO's accounts. UMNO had its trustees, 4 of them: Mahathir, the Deputy Prime Minister or the Deputy President, the Secretary General, and the Treasurer. There was some accountability. Mahathir himself talks about how he handed over about a huge sum of money to Abdullah when he stood down. We knew about these accounts. They were covert, but we knew about these accounts. In the case of Najib by his own admission talks about, what was it, 2.6 billion? An enormous flow of money into his personal account, and even his own Deputy Prime Minister, Mohidin, knew nothing about it. So you can see here very clear differences between the two prime ministers in terms of how they developed the market, and how they developed rents, and how they used money. There are a few more here, a few more examples here. I just want to point one more. When we look at Mahathir, Mahathir was very clear about ownership patterns about companies. We could see the creation of a new breed of Malaysian capitalists. Halim Saad, Tajuddin Ramli, Samsudin Abu Hassan, Ananda Krishnan, Francis Yeo, new people. When we look at Najib, can we point to anyone and say something new has been created, there's some kind of dynamism going on here. We can see in all this madness some method to the madness. We can't see any method in all this madness that we're seeing today. What we are seeing today, however, is that Najib has significant control over the government-linked companies. So, and this is just the top 100 companies. We've just started research now on the next 900 companies listed, publicly listed. We're also doing research now at the state level to see how it works. Because the fundamental difference here between Mahathir and Najib is that Najib is using the GLCs. Now this is extremely problematic. Can we go to the next slide? Because here you are. If you look at the top companies in Malaysia today, here's just a list of the top 20 companies. Of the top 20 companies, if there was once upon a time when among the top companies in the country, they were owned by private businessmen. Today, if you look at the top 10 companies, only 2 of them are privately owned. The rest are all government-linked companies. Our leading companies in the country today are under the control of the Minister of Finance. And the 2 companies that stand out are, of course, Public Bank, Pei Hong Piao, and Ananda Krishna's Maxis. You have to take your hats off to Pei Hong Piao. I just don't know how Pei Hong Piao managed to deal with this government and continue to sustain himself in, as I said, in all this madness. And if you look below the top 20, more than half of the top 20 companies are owned by the government. What will happen if we have a kleptocratic state which has significant control over our top companies?